Last, pay respect to Luang Por by making 3 bows.
Sound check, check, okay. So, how's it going? All right. Our 4th day of 5. So that the article that I mentioned, what you might not know about Jhana and Samadhi, that's been posted to your email accounts. So if you want to read that, that's quite interesting. If you do want to read that, I suggest you read the main notes without the footnotes. The footnotes, so if you're not familiar with Theravada terms, the footnotes might be a bit complicated. If you're familiar, I mean, they're very interesting, but I suggest just read the main body, which isn't that long. And then if you want to research the footnotes, it's worth it, but it's an alternative take on those words. So, day 4. How about a story to start? Stories are good. So at Wat Pah Pong, it would have been for me 1974, I think. I was staying in Ajahn Chah's monastery, and Ajahn Chah his kuti was very simple, and it was on concrete pillars, and then underneath his kuti was a terrazzo floor where he would sit on a bench and receive guests or monks, anyone who had questions, and that was one of our favorite places at Wat Pah Pong. The monks would sit behind him and just be with him, with his energy, and then listen to his way of responding to the questions and problems that lay people presented to him. Really, really lovely. I have very lovely memories of that. And the next to his seat was a ledger, and if anyone wanted to make donations to the monastery, they would simply put it in the ledger. And then the secretary would come at the end of the day and then enter the amounts into the ledger book, and then that would be taken to wherever the money was kept. So one day, someone had stolen the money from the ledger. Forget how much it was. So the main bell of the monastery rang at an unusual time. Forget. But anyway, we all came to Luang Por Chah's kuti, and he told us that someone had stolen money. And he said, I don't know who's stolen the money, but in case it's anyone who is resident in the monastery, what we'll do, so that the person could reverse their karma, as it were, what we'll do is we'll all go back to our kutis, and we'll make a package with leaves, because that's all we didn't really have paper, and try to wrap it up so it would look like a certain amount of money. And then everyone would take that package to actually the bell tower, which was quite a large bell tower, and there'd be 3 senior monks there, and they'll open all the packages, and if the money turns up, then we can kind of forget about it. So we did this, and we all went back to our kutis. The packages were taken, they were all opened up, and the money was not found. So then we thought it came, someone from the outside had come in and taken it. But to me, it was kind of indicative of Luang Por Chah's practicality. He was very, very socially conscious and really, actually very plugged into his society. And he knew his society, and he knew his power in that society. He knew his influence in that society. So he used the rituals and his position and all the respect that a senior monk gets for the well-being of his society. And so much of my education as a young monk came from watching the way he actually dealt with common problems, not just high teachings. And then Luang Por Sumedho, his senior Western disciple, was also my teacher. And then I was with Luang Por a lot, listening to interviews and seeing how he handled problems and how he answered questions. So I learned a lot about being a monk and being a human being, really, not just high teachings. And so this is what I consider Theravada. Theravada for me is the way of the elders. Now Suttavada for me is the way of the suttas. And I'm not a Suttavadan, which doesn't mean I dismiss the suttas, but my primary adjudication or the interpretation of the suttas actually comes from Luang Por Chah, Luang Por Sumedho, and other teachers. And so if someone says to me, yeah, but the Buddha said, I say, well, wait a minute. Were you there? In all honesty, what we can say is the texts say, but whose texts? Is it the Mahayana text? Is it the Agamas? It's suttas? So I prefer to try in my own mind, well, the texts say that. It doesn't mean I respect it, but then the interpretation of the text, that comes, you have Abhidhamma, which comes 150 years after the Buddha, we think, historically. Then you have Visuddhimagga, which comes, 1,000 years ago or something. Another commentary. So you have commentaries upon commentaries, and then you have contemporary interpretations. And who's right? Well, it doesn't matter who's right. I think it doesn't matter who's right. It's what works. And what really works for you in this way. Then it becomes a reflective consideration rather than a dogmatic consideration. It's not about dogma, like who's right or wrong. It's like, can I liberate my heart from suffering? That's what I'm here for. I'm not here to be right. I'm here to be free. So I think some of the arguments that you find in religious discourse within Theravada or outside of Theravada oftentimes is really just opinions. And unfortunately, sometimes big egos. Who's got the strongest opinion, which is unfortunate. And we can get intimidated by that. We can get very much intimidated by that. So I think of myself as a Theravadan in that sense, but I'm super grateful for the texts. I'm super grateful for the Four Noble Truths, Paticca Samuppada, Anicca Dukkha Anatta, all these things. But then how did I interpret them? Well, through the encouragement of Luang Por Chah and Luang Por Sumedho. So you take the word Silabbata Paramasa, the second fetter of the 10 fetters. Silabbata Paramasa gets translated as belief in rites and rituals. And then in English it gets translated as superstition. So I look at that and think, well, I don't do joss sticks. Yeah, I'm beyond that. And then Luang Por Sumedho says, yeah, but are you beyond your cultural attachments? What your family has conditioned into your mind? So I'm the second son of 2 sons. So I have second son karma. The way I relate to family is through second son rather than eldest son. And that's a conditioning. That's a conditioning that's come to me from my culture. And culture is very, very powerful, how it creates a sense of who I should be and what I shouldn't be. Again, what a man should be, what a woman should be, and so on and so forth. And if ego consciousness comes out of that, I am this, then of course that's suffering. So what I'm just saying in this is that Luang Por Sumedho then gives me an interpretation of Silabbata Paramasa, which is very, very culturally relative and relative to my own practice. And I don't find that somewhere else. So it doesn't mean that rites and rituals is a wrong interpretation of a particular word, but my teacher says, yeah, but have you ever thought about that? You see how that affects your mind? You say, I never thought about that. And hence we have this lineage of teachers. And what's interesting in contemporary Buddhism and all forms of spirituality is that I think for the first time in history, we can hear the oral tradition because things are recorded. You think, what about all the Ajahn Chahs that practiced in all the traditions from the time of Gautama? They all got lost because a lot of them were not intellectuals. So they weren't writing books, they weren't commenting on scriptures, they were pupil to pupil, teacher to pupil, and then another teacher to pupil, and a whole lineage right back to the time of the Buddha. So we're all the Ajahn Chahs. Well, obviously they like Ajahn Chah wasn't a scholar, but he was brilliant. He studied for 7 years and said, that's not the way for me. He gave up studies, and then he wandered and kind of figured things out more on his own than from Luang Por Man. So we live in a very interesting and rich time because, first of all, we have when Ajahn, you probably know the story, but when, I wasn't there at the time, Luang Por Sumedho tells this story, but when tape recorders first came into the northeast of Thailand, Ajahn Chah taped his own voice, and he loved it. And apparently he'd play it on the PA system all day, which drove people crazy, I guess, or something, and he just loved to hear it. But suddenly, not only can this tradition be related to in an in-person sense, it can be related to in audio, but now in Zoom. So you get the video and the audio, and so I think this is a really rich time because now the oral tradition of practitioners sharing with other practitioners becomes more and more a way of adjudicating the texts, more and more a way of getting nuance on texts that maybe we didn't hear before. And certainly that's been my take on it, and I'm so very, very grateful of that. So that's in terms of that word jhana and how that might be used. And again, if you want to kind of explore that word and its different possibilities, then read that, and then you get a more reflective sense of how that word has been used and can be used. So, what should we do today? What have I missed out? Have I missed anything really? Have I missed anything out? Body awareness. I think this is a very helpful one for me, that let me just guide you through that same body awareness I did earlier. And if I could also return to the ideas of Yoga Nidra. Yoga Nidra is lying meditation, and it's I said it before, but I let you know how I found it helpful. So you lay down on a surface which is comfortable. You put a pillow under your knees. You get your neck well placed so that the whole thing is in alignment, neck, spine, chin. You place your hands on your knees or on the surface, like in Shavasana, the corpse posture, and then you adjust your posture. Then you make a determination. I'll adjust my posture a little bit more, 10%. Having adjusted your posture, then you determine not to move. So if you want to scratch yourself, change your posture, you make that desire to move the object of your meditation. And because you're noticing the restlessness of wanting to move, but you know full well that it's okay not to move, you become mindful of desire. And hopefully you don't fall asleep. And then that brings you into a kind of full body awareness. So this meditation is very much used in Yoga Nidra, that way of sensitivity. And then, especially for people who have, you have like lower spine problems, or hip problems, or just energy problems of keeping your body upright. It can be a very, very skillful posture to develop. But even when you're healthy, I find quite a few of the monks now that I talk to, they have learned how to develop that. So then they'll alternate sitting, walking, lying, sitting, walking, lying in different ways. But it is one of the four postures. In the iconography of the four postures, you always find the Buddha meditating on his side. I tried that, and my arm almost fell off. Because my arm was... So that didn't work. So iconography doesn't necessarily work. Anyway, if you'd like to give that a go, give that a go. Or if you have someone in your circle, so I can't meditate, my knees hurt, my back hurts, maybe you could recommend that. So we'll do this Yoga Nidra, and again, the language I'm using is make conscious the feeling that the place in the body that I'm directing your attention. So I'm, like if I say, notice, allow the feelings in your nostrils to become conscious, I'm asking you not to focus. Because sometimes you focus and where's my nose, and you get a lot of strain in the eyes. But I'm just saying, just allow a local attention to be at the different parts of the body and allow the feelings to become conscious. And that, for me, connects me to this receptive awareness, allowing things. And so you're actually emphasizing awareness rather than the bodily part. But the bodily part kind of just grounds you into the present moment. And then you refresh that, the same idea, you refresh that sense of presence by moving to another part of the body. But it is about awareness. It's really not about, so whatever your body is feeling or not feeling doesn't matter. If you can't feel your left elbow, don't make it a problem. Just think, my left elbow is not there. It feels like this. So it's not about the body. It's not like trying to find some super sensation or it's not about that. It's just witnessing whatever comes up in that sense of presence. And so hopefully, by the end of the meditation, the sense of presence and witnessing and awareness is strengthened, irrespective of what feelings you have in the body. Okay? So let's take a posture and give that a go. I'll describe it for a certain amount of time, and then I'll be quiet. And then if you don't want to use that, you just want to use choiceless awareness or breath, whatever works for you. Let's begin with that attitude of awakening. So listen to sound. Emphasize the listening. So receptive awareness, receptive listening. It's like this, and then the silence of knowing. Perceive sound as in-awareness. You could say that the sound of the air conditioner is out there, or you could say that the feeling of out there is in-awareness. So awareness is like conscious space. Non-becoming. Not trying to find an experience, but witnessing this experience. Non-resistance, allowing whatever experience is there to be as it is. Now is the knowing. We'll bring attention to your body, bring attention to your mouth. Allow the sensations in the mouth to become conscious. So you localize your attention, and now this isn't a concept, this is the sensations and vibrations you feel in the mouth area. Let that be conscious. And notice there's a kind of waiting. And then you start to feel your lips, your tongue, the teeth, palate. and there's the knowing. Awareness is silent. Bring attention to your ears. Let the feelings and the outer structures of the ears become conscious. Again, we're not looking for anything. We're allowing what's there to become conscious inside the ear canals. So the part of the body changes. Awareness, witnessing is the unchanging. And this is in awareness. Bring attention to your nose, the bridge of the nose. Feel the upper part, the bridge of the nose. You're waiting, and that becomes conscious. So the mind has a chance to slowly compose, collect. Feel the nostrils, inside the nostrils. Feel the whole nasal area as vibration, as warmth, as whatever. Bring attention to your eyes. Let the orbits of the bony structures, let that become conscious. So you might feel a lot of tension. Fine. So let it become conscious. The eyes, the eyeballs themselves. And pressure in awareness. The objects change. Awareness is the constant. Feel both temples, right and left side. Feel the optic nerve going back into the brain. Feel the top of the head. Let the back of the head become conscious as sensation. Now feel the whole head as not as a concept, but as a mass of sensations. And this is an object in awareness. So you start to notice that the body is an object in awareness. Bring attention to your neck. Feel the throat. Feel both sides of the neck. Feel the back of the neck. Let that become conscious. Become conscious of the shoulders. right shoulder, upper arm, right side, inside the upper arm against the body, the warmth. Outside the upper arm, right side. Right elbow. Right forearm. Right wrist. Right hand, back of the hand. And the palm of the hand, the right hand. Feel the whole right arm and hand. Vibration, sensation, changing, not a concept. Let go of thinking. Feel the body. Left shoulder, upper arm, left side. Inside the warmth of the arm against the body. Left elbow, left forearm. Stay with it. Don't go off into past and future. Left wrist, left hand. The whole left arm and hand in awareness. The body in awareness. The torso. Go to the chest area, front of the chest. Feel the clothing. Feel the movement. Rib cage. Upper spine. Organs, lungs and heart. Some of this you'll notice, some you won't, doesn't matter. Sensations are like this. We're emphasizing awareness. Down, lower into the body, feel the abdominal area, front. Lower rib cage, sides. Lower back. Stay with it, stay in the moment. Inside the abdominal area, stomach. Perhaps notice the kidneys, intestines, whatever. Pelvic area, feel the pelvic bones. The organs in the pelvic area. Feel the sit bones, feel the weight of the body on the cushion of the chair. Let that be conscious. Again, not looking for anything, but allowing what's there to become conscious. So we're emphasizing awareness of the way things are. Right hip. Right thigh. Right knee. Shin and calf, right side. Ankle. and the right foot. Whole right leg. Left side, left hip. Stay with it. Try to let go of thinking. Feel the thigh. The left knee. Shin, calf. Left ankle. And the left foot. Whole left side. Both legs. Torso from pelvis to chest. Arms and shoulders. Neck and head. Feel the whole body now. You're going to step out. Feel the body as vibration, as sensation, as pain, as temperature. Not as a concept, not as a thought, but as a changing phenomena. And perceive the body as in awareness, an object in awareness. So then I'll leave it there. You can go through that again or just abide as witness. Or if you want to localize your attention in one space, then use the breath. Okay, we'll leave it there and I'll just sit silently for the rest of this period. And when your attention gets kidnapped by thinking, then you notice the attention is kind of really narrow, caught by some plan or whatever. So then see if you can just open the mind, get a sense of spacious consciousness, or consciousness of space, or awareness of space. And open the mind, and then listen, establish presence, and then pick up whatever you want. But make that quite a deliberate step of stopping, opening, listening, and make clear, oh, this is awareness now. Awareness feels like this. Even if you have to do it 100 times each sitting, just come back to that. That's kind of what right understanding is about. You know that the present moment is like this, whatever way it is, which isn't a thought about the present moment, it's a witnessing. Be patient, keep returning to that open attention, knowing the way things are. Again and again and again, you'll be very, very patient. Rather than using an object to try to get rid of thinking. And then when you have the mind open like that, then, okay, how do you sustain that? Sustain it with the breath? Fine. So it's awareness with one in-breath, awareness with one long out-breath, rather than it being about the breath itself. It's about the awareness. maybe just a few more words before I disappear on you. So in that meditation, what I'm trying to convey is the awakening of the mind rather than the quality of the object. So whether, like, some parts of your body are very sensitive and some aren't. And so the language I'm using is make conscious the way things are. So you localize attention here, there, and everywhere. And then, hopefully, that translates into making conscious things like, it seems that a lot of people who meditate get intimidated by people who have confidence. So maybe someone's very confident, and they're saying they have this level and that level, and they see devas and auras, and then, you're kind of barely able to survive for one meditation, and then you feel inadequate. I'm not getting anywhere. Now, the feeling of inadequacy is an object. It's not who you are. And that object is conditioned by maybe someone else's confidence and maybe a habit of self-disparagement or whatever it might be. But inadequacy is different than confidence. They are both objects. So obviously we prefer confidence. It's a more pleasant experience. But liberation is beyond pleasant and unpleasant. So if you make conscious, if you're not aware of inadequacy, say, or a perceived inadequacy, and then you start thinking thoughts around that, I'm not good, I'm not up to it, my meditation's no good, I've been practicing for 2 days, and I should be enlightened, whatever your mind will bring up, that is an object. And then that object, through habit and through avijja, gets created into a person. You can see that if I can step back and know, inadequacy feels this way, whatever way it is, without judgment, then I'm the knowing. And there's the object called inadequacy. And then if I'm patient, I don't buy into it, then the inadequacy ceases, and there's no need to do anything. Because it naturally arises and ceases according to cause and conditions. That's why I'd say it's anicca dukkha anatta. But, again, if you believe in it, then you become the person, and that's rebirth. So, this body meditation is then trying to encourage that very attitude of awakening to the way things are. I'll go back to this again and again and again. But the sort of real skilled practitioners say, notices all those subtleties of self-creation that come up as forms of habit, cultural conditioning, etc., etc. So, let's say my parents were very critical of me. My parents weren't, but let's say that's the case, and that I was number whatever son or daughter, let's say, and that created a certain kind of conditioning in me that I felt I was always very self-critical because someone else was critical of me. And so a pattern gets created into the mind. And none of us escaped those patterns. We were all children, and our parents weren't arahants. Were they? Did anyone have an arahant for a parent? And we lived in societies that have ignorance and all manner of things. So a personality does get created, a kind of personal take on life. And some of those characteristics are good. Maybe we're industrious and honest, but some are egotistical in the sense that they create a strong sense of self. And that's where the language, listening to your inner world, that's where the language of I shouldn't be this way, you shouldn't be that way, the jealousies and the angers and all of that, the I thinking is the problem. It's not the emotion. The emotion has been formed by what's been put into your mind. A child doesn't have any personality. Well, maybe they have kind of characteristics, but then that grows. So then we become adults, and we start to reflect on this, and we see that there are buttons that get pressed. And what gets born is a sense of self, and that sense of self is an object. So, like I might be, maybe like I'll build something, and I'll think, and I'll make some mistake in the building of a piece of furniture, and at the end of the furniture, I keep seeing the mistake. And that's the way my mind's been conditioned, which has a good quality that I try to get better, but then I can be self-critical. There's a mistake. You did it again, Viradhammo. You're no good. Terrible. I mean, I don't go that far, but you could see if that was the habit and you believed in it, then you're a victim. You're a victim of your own history. You're a victim of your conditioning. But in any given moment, you can say, oh, this is what self-disparagement feels like. And if you wait, then it goes back into silence. So then you can use opposites. You can use encouraging words. So if I'm very self-critical or I'm very self-conscious, I can say, yeah, but you haven't killed anyone today, or whatever you want. You can put things in like that, but they're not repressive measures. You're not trying to just do some kind of substitution practice of positivism to get rid of negativism. You're not doing that. You're more skillfully waking up, and then when the mind is moving towards the unskillful, you say, don't go there with thought, and go to that other space. So then we can see the habits coming up of being judgmental about someone, and then we know, oh, judgment feels this way. Then we can shift to some sense of, yeah, but they're trying, but we're not doing it out of repression. You have to wake up first, be honest. And then some of our habits are pretty awful. Let's face it, right? All of us have that, but it's not our fault. It's not your fault that you feel jealous or, you have unwholesome thoughts. And the problem with, I think, all religions is a kind of high standard of purity, which becomes an ideal, which then becomes the avenue of self-hatred. Now, folk like us, I would say that our tendency is much more towards self-criticism than towards self-aggrandismo, towards like, hey, I'm great. I meditated for 10 minutes. Most of us say, oh, you only did 10 minutes. So there is a bias, I think, among us towards self-criticism, which is a good part, which is a good thing, but then it falls into ego and self-hatred. And that, of course, is not constructive because it's still aversion. So what's the difference between noticing cause and effect and trying to train the mind towards something wholesome as opposed to just criticizing yourself? And the difference is self-view. Right? Now that's the difference. So the more you wake up to the way things are, you're finding the gateway to the deathless, and then you begin to moderate your moods out of wisdom. You begin to see the negative moods start to cease. And what's wonderful about the human consciousness is that once ego consciousness has been allowed to cease and all the patterns of kilesa and defilement are known and allowed to cease, what manifests is love. It's really quite marvelous, isn't it? You look at Luang Por or His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Luang Por Sumedho, they're very loving beings. And this is the mystery. Why does it happen that? Why isn't enlightenment grumpy? or whatever. But it is. It's a loving state because there is no separation. There is no alienation. There is no division. That sense of you and I are brothers and sisters, and this becomes very, very profound. So, hence, any encouragement of the Brahma Viharas, any encouragement towards loving kindness, towards gratitude, towards joyful relationship to others, towards compassion, towards peacefulness, any of that is really, really skillful, because that's filling the mind in things which are not egotistical. They're not based on a sense of I, they're based on union, on communion. So at times we just have to bear with being grumpy, and everyone else does too. So with me, say, I used to be really I can get quite depressed, but now I can't stop talking. but I used to kind of go into really, really dark moods, and usually I'm fairly kind of ebullient guy now, pretty outwards, but in my kind of adolescence and early monasticism, there were a lot of very dark states of mind which I had to endure. And then people get confused, like one day I'm the kind of jovial guy, and the next day, wow, what's he been drinking? Kind of feeling. And I had no choice. I didn't wake up in the morning, I'll be depressed today, that'll be nice, everyone will really like that. It doesn't work that way. And so I had to endure a lot. And people would say, what's wrong? I say, leave me alone. That's what's wrong. Get out of my life. So I said to people, if you're going to take the good Viradhammo, you're going to have to take the bad Viradhammo. You can't just take my good side. You can take the whole package. And so it is. So we have dark spots and things that are hard to negotiate and are confusing and they get triggered. So quite often the compassionate thing with people is not to try to fix them, but give them the courage just to witness and go through that. The desire that, if someone is unhappy, to ask them to be happy is not maybe such a great thing. To want them to be happy is, but to demand that they're happy or different doesn't allow them the chance to look at unhappiness as an object, as a condition. I don't know about you, but when when something difficult comes up, I need to be alone. I'm no good at tell us what you feel, Viradhammo. I'll drop dead. Get out of my life. That's me as a character. Some people like to vent and talk, but that's me as a character. And so privacy was very important in my life. But I'm happy to communicate and commune with people. But those are personal things, and sometimes the moods of the mind, you just have to endure them. There's just karmas kind of coming up into consciousness. I know when my mom died, I was just confused for 3 months. I didn't know what the emotions were, because I'd been with her for 9 years, and everyone else was confused, with me being confused. And everyone tried to fix it. I said, leave me alone, will you? And it fixed itself. It was just natural that the mind was kind of in a different kind of state. There's nothing really wrong with that. So that's why I think this practice of awakening to the way things are is not a demand that you be a certain way. It's actually a very compassionate thing, isn't it? It's not a demand that you be anything. There is an expectation of dana and sila, for sure. Social responsibility, for sure. And that's the social construct that we function and do this work in. All right? So I'll leave that for your reflection, and we'll meet again at 2:15. So you have time to do some walking and sitting. I'll just pay respects, and then we can bow, and I'll go do my second tour of the monastery.
Let's pay respect to Ajahn by making 3 bows.
Okay, see you later.